Muchísimas gracias, presidente. Yo les voy a preguntar en general a los tres. Yo estoy segura de la independencia del IARC, como lo estoy de la EFSA, porque además he tenido la oportunidad de participar en la selección de los científicos que están en los diversos paneles. También quiero decir que cualquier principio activo, como todos saben, según la dosis a que se emplea, puede ser un medicamento que sana o un veneno que mata, y estoy pensando concretamente en la heparina, que es el más conocido de todos. Y dicho esto, le quería preguntar si han trabajado con las dosis que se utilizan en la práctica y teniendo en cuenta las condiciones de aplicación de los productos que se emplean. Y si han utilizado solo el principio activo o el producto comercial con los diferentes coadyuvantes que se le añaden como mojantes, etcétera. Y al señor Tarazona quiero preguntarle cuáles han sido las oportunidades de consulta pública y consulta con los expertos. Y a la doctora Guyton, si el IARC, que difiere de las otras...
Una domanda, un esperto, scusa.
Pues perdone, yo quería saber si... No le interesa que haga otra, ¿verdad? Claro. Porque eso es muy significativo, que haya un instituto que difiera de otros tres. Y a mí me gustaría saber si van a tener alguna reunión conjunta. Muchas gracias.
Ok, grazie. La risposta a questo punto la do parola al professor Tarazona.
Thank you. Regarding the public consultation, we have a public consultation that involves all stakeholders. And we have also a specific consultation in the different areas. We cover efficiency, we cover human health, residues in food, environmental fate, and ecotoxicology and the risk for the environment. We organize also a specific consultation on carcinogenicity, following the IARC assessment. Before the IARC assessment, the experts have already agreed that there was no need to classify for glyphosate, but when IARC published the initial indication in Lancet, we decided to wait, and the Commission sent as a mandate, to wait for the publication of the final monograph. We received first the review of the list of reference from IARC, as has been already mentioned. We checked that basically there was no additional studies, few additional studies on the epidemiology, but following the publication of the IARC monograph, Germany conducted a new reassessment specifically on carcinogenicity, and we organized an expert consultation on that. Every single comment is available in the EFSA background documents. Thank you.
Perfetto, grazie. Domanda, collega Eric Andrieu, a te la parola.
Ma question, Monsieur le Président, s'adresse aux représentants de l'EFSA. Tout d'abord, comment se fait-il, alors que la plupart des revues académiques s'accordent sur la génotoxicité du glyphosate, que seule l'EFSA ait un avis contraire? Deuxièmement, pensez-vous, Monsieur Tarazona, qu'il soit scientifiquement acceptable que le rapport de l'Agence européenne de sécurité des aliments accepte, vous avez fait référence, les copier-coller de passages entiers d'un document déposé en 2012 par la firme Monsanto? Troisièmement, pouvez-vous nous affirmer clairement et publiquement que le BfR, agence allemande, qui était invitée d'ailleurs à cette audition et qui a refusé, qui était sous l'autorité de l'EFSA, n'a pas été influencé par Monsanto en choisissant ses copier-coller, et ce, à aucun moment de son rapport d'évaluation sur le glyphosate? Enfin, estimez-vous que de telles pratiques grandissent l'Europe et développent la confiance dans nos institutions des 500 millions de citoyens européens?
Perfetto, Eric. Ancora, professor Tarazona.
Thank you. I have already explained that the assessment by Germany is the assessment of the application produced by 24 companies, including Monsanto. And that assessment includes the verification of the summaries and some specific sections by the company. When the rapporteur member state is not Germany, it was Germany in this case, but it's the normal process. You have over 200 pesticides that you can check that is the process in all the cases. If the rapporteur member states confirm following the verification with the actual studies that the assessment by the company is correct, they include the assessment in the risk assessment from the rapporteur member state. You can see in this whole issue that the rapporteur member states, Germany in this case, clarify at the beginning of section 3 of section 6 of volume 3 that is the process, that they clarify that they will include the assessment by the companies with the modifications. You can see that for every single study that they have included the reference for the study, a reference by Germany, so that's confirmed to us that the study was assessed. And also I have already presented the slide. You see for every single relevant study, you have the assessment by the company, obviously copy and paste from the company because it's the assessment of the company, and you have the assessment by the rapporteur member state. In some cases, Germany agreed, in some cases did not agree. And even more important, after that, you have scientists in EFSA and scientists in 28 member states, because it's the 27 plus Norway, checking again back onto the raw data that the studies and the assessment by Germany was correct. And you have, I have also presented just one example, because in 15 minutes there is no more time, but you have a lot of examples that was done. So I think that it's clear that Germany did the work that was expected, copying the parts that should be copied, modifying those that should be modified, and during the peer review, we further modify other elements and include a proper assessment, which in my view is scientifically sound. Thank you.
Grazie. Adesso Richard Ashworth.
Thank you. My question to EFSA, and it concerns the classification system. Can I suggest that the classification system is both a strength but also a weakness of this system? It's always tempting to categorize things as absolutes, whereas the likelihood is that in chemistry nothing is 100%. Nothing is black or white. There is a long list of everyday products which we're in touch with in our lifestyles, which are rated as being carcinogenic. Sorry. For example, hair lacquer, dry cleaning products, burnt toast, coal are all issues which would be carcinogenic. My question is therefore about the relative risk and hazard. And what concerns me is that on one hand, I see glyphosate categorized as limited evidence, but I noted in that same category was also DDT and dieldrin. Now, in practical terms, that appeals to me as not correct. Therefore, it is a question of the likelihood of exposure. How does this system allow us to make balanced assessments based on hazard and risk?
Thank you, Richard. Again, Jose Tarazona.
Thank you very much for the question. So the classification system that we use in the EU, and I think that maybe the question is more for ECHA, that at the end of the day is responsible for the classification, but obviously we are using the classification as well in EFSA. The classification that we are using in the EU is a system that was agreed by the United Nations in the Global Harmonized System for Classification and Labeling. And EU was one of the first jurisdictions to implement worldwide this classification. It's a classification with criteria that has been agreed by experts all over the world and guarantee a high level of assessment for all the chemicals. The system includes different levels of evidence. That's why this classification is not yes or no. There are different classes for carcinogenicity or toxicity for reproduction. You have a category 1A, 1B, and category 2. So depending on the evidence, you can classify in different levels. What we are using for the classification in EFSA is this system based on the guidance that was developed by the European Chemicals Agency and is based on the UN system. So I think that the hazard identification is clear. As you mentioned, classification is based exclusively on hazard. Then we need to consider how this hazard is presented later on into a risk assessment depending on the exposure. But the exposure is not part of the classification. That's why in our conclusion, in the EFSA conclusion, you will see in all the cases the proposed classification, the hazard assessment, and later on the exposure assessment and the actual risk for the way that in which the chemical, in this case the pesticide, is used in the EU. Thank you.
Molte grazie. Adesso è il turno di Ulrike Muller.
Liebe Kollegen, mit der heutigen Debatte geben wir einer organisierten Verunsicherungskampagne gegen unser gut funktionierendes europäisches Verbraucherschutzsystem viel zu viel Raum. Die politische Entscheidungsfindung in Gesundheitsfragen sollte im Sinne eines glaubwürdigen und hohen Schutzes nachvollziehbar und belastbar sein. Das ist sie dann, wenn der Prozess auf einem robusten wissenschaftlichen Fundament steht und aufbaut. In der Wissenschaft gibt es immer verschiedene Meinungen und nie absolute Sicherheit. Trotzdem müssen wir Entscheidungen treffen. Dafür können wir uns nur auf das beste verfügbare Wissen stützen. Im Fall von Glyphosat, meine ich, ist dies eindeutig zu erkennen. EFSA, ECHA, 27 Agenturen der Mitgliedstaaten, WHO, FAO, Agenturen aus Kanada, Japan, Australien, Neuseeland, Norwegen kommen alle zum gleichen Schluss, dass bei sachgerechter Anwendung auf dem Acker keine Gefahr ausgeht. Deswegen meine Frage an Sie, Frau Guyton: Auf welche wissenschaftliche Grundlage sollen robuste, glaubwürdige und verantwortungsvolle politische Entscheidungen getroffen werden, wenn nicht auf der Basis des breiten wissenschaftlichen Konsens?
Grazie. Professoressa Guyton, lei la risposta, 2 minuti.
So thank you for this question and raising so many important issues. As I said, I cannot give you advice about policy, but I would like to say this question of hazard and risk that I think we've heard in several of these questions I can respond to. So first I want to clarify something that Dr. Tarazona said about the World Health Organization JMPR evaluation. This concerned exposures in the diet. So that's about pesticide residues in the diet. And as I mentioned, we didn't have any studies of cancer of people exposed in the diet. We had studies of people who were exposed in their occupation. And this is the basis of the limited evidence that I referred to. So I think it's very important to understand what is the nature of the scientific evidence that is showing this to be a hazard, and it is people who are exposed in their jobs. As well, we have the studies that are done in a laboratory setting. We considered all of the relevant evidence, including of glyphosate and its formulations, for the human studies, because there were different studies done at different times in different places of the world. You could envision that they would be actually of different formulations, and this is what led the working group to classify glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. So I hope that helps to clarify some of the scientific questions. Thank you very much.
Grazie.